This episode is brought to you by The Skeptical Buddha, The Tao of Science, my book, which is a thoughtful discourse on Eastern philosophy and how it helped birth ideas required for science and skepticism and the way it fell behind in the face of new evidence. This book discusses the long history of both philosophies as well as the tenets and variations within the varying sects, along with psychology and our own natural biases. It discusses how to counter our natural biases using science and the underlying concepts of meditation and mindfulness, a more complex understanding of how science operates than most of the public understands, and why it is the best tool we have to discover truth and reality, as well as philosophical ideas we might embrace as technology progresses. The material is packaged in a way that the average person can understand, with rich illustrations to draw the reader in and feel at peace. In the past, I made a video on Asteroid 16 Psyche, which has an estimated $10 quadrillion in precious metals including gold, platinum, palladium, and rare earth elements. I discussed how mining it would end pretty much all metal scarcity. However, what I didn't realize is that very scarcity is desired and will be guarded by anyone with power. No corporation will ever mine 16 Psyche. It would be detrimental to them and the entire capitalist system. Right now, they're working on mining water, hydrogen, and helium, as a few liters of water in space is worth 1 kilogram of gold on Earth, just in terms of the cost of sending it into space. This is a lucrative business they're aiming for long term, and what they can make money off of, using the long-standing scarcity model. The second they brought the metals down to Earth, the values would instantly drop, creating a massive worldwide recession, if not a depression, as these metals would suddenly lose all scarcity value, and we would have way more than we'd ever need, losing all their potential profits the second they return. We are decades away from even this kind of mining, but if 16 Psyche was to ever be mined, it would just be for one purpose: global socialist revolution, which is why fear governments will stop at nothing to prevent anyone from mining it. The only projected power to even remotely do this at the current projection is China, but that's only if they can become a bit less authoritarian, figure out how to take care of all their people so everyone can own a house and have healthcare and public services even if they move for work, and they can rebuild their population, as pretty much no one is taking advantage of the end of the one-child policy for social and financial reasons, causing a rapidly aging population that young workers are going to take care of, sapping their resources. China, taking a page out of how Vietnam and Cuba are structured, where, while still a dictatorship, it allows much more free and fair local elections, would be a massive needed change to make all of this work. Otherwise, they will continue to use the local governments as scapegoats when any of their policies go wrong, because they give top-down metrics that the lower party members follow to a fault, with unintended consequences that ends up like a wish on a monkey's paw. China would have the military power to defend its mining craft if the rest of the world tried to go to war against it. The only other three possibilities would be Vietnam, though it doesn't really have the military might or manpower, Northern Europe if its people decided to go hard left, or some new hard left future superpower we never anticipated. The last would be a cooperative conglomerate like the mutualist Mondragon Group in Spain, but on a much bigger and much more powerful scale. The only other option would be if climate change got so awful that it was decided that such a drastic measure was needed that the current economic model was no longer worth it. The very second we dropped our first ton or two of rock from 16 Psyche, mines would cease being worth anything. Literally hundreds of billions of dollars would vanish even faster than when Elon took over Twitter and started running it into the septic tank. Mine owners and operators would be out of business, laying off thousands of people worldwide, and their mining equipment would then have to be shifted over to space mining technology. The environment would massively benefit from the end of mining, but former billionaires, retirement savings, and hedge funds losing a large chunk of their wealth overnight would have a massive impact on everyone. However, at the same time, electronics and electric battery prices would plummet. Mining slavery would vanish, wrecking these former suppliers, but making electric vehicles and electronics incredibly affordable without the manufacturer losing any money. If anything, they could keep some of the extra profit for a while until the market readjusted. In the future, water on Earth will be scarce, though there is a current research group using air collected over the ocean which has 100% humidity due to evaporation that, in theory, could make air cheap and abundant even in desert regions. However, we shall see how that progresses. It could be that in the future, all offshore wind farms will also have an evap tower that pumps water or saturated air along with the electric cables. However, even if this doesn't work, with all these metals, purifying water would now be dirt cheap, as would pulling carbon out of the air. All of our easy, low-energy carbon-pulling solutions, outside of growing and sinking sargassum seaweed to the bottom of the ocean, which is in the works, is all hampered by the fact that they require incredibly rare and expensive metals. Solar panels would massively spike in their energy collecting ability, as well as dropping electricity to dirt cheap for all. We now have the cheap air cleaning, carbon removal, green energy that is affordable to all. No more destructive mining on land ever, and now labor, not goods, would be the only expensive thing. We'd essentially have a return of the commons, forced by the entity that did the space mining. Which is why those in charge will do everything possible to ensure scarcity remains king, so they can maintain their control of the means of production, and their hoard of money, that would become worthless if we ended up mining the asteroid. So, at the moment, it's all a pipe dream. The only way it will ever be mined is if we change the political calculus to make it both possible and militarily viable. Mining it would end capitalism as we know it, but to be able to mine it would require an end to capitalism as we know it, so it's a chicken-egg paradox. For now, we can dream and treat it like it doesn't even exist, moving forward on with what we can do, but keeping a dream of 16 Psyche in the backs of our minds. So as always, thank you all for watching this as a video or listening to this as a podcast, which I'm sure was completely uncontroversial to anyone, especially to the YouTube monetization team. So if you found this useful, please donate to my Patreon. Just a reminder that I'm Anubis2814 on YouTube, and I have almost 700 videos on my channel that I've made over the past 11 years on religion, science, psychology, and politics. Please go check them out, and if your site has the option, like, rate, review, and comment. A special thanks goes out to Kendall Copperberg, Mylon Mia, Ogrel, Elias Garcia Guevara, and Joe Taylor for their $10 or more Wapawet level donations. I'm always humbled by the fact that they find my work worth funding and worth driving me forward. Thank you all. Please consider donating to my work if you can, and thank you all for listening.